On May 10th, 1775, we have two major events that are going to occur during the American Revolution. The first one is the fall of Fort Ticonderoga to the Americans. We've already discussed that and how it gave the colonists much needed artillery to continue the siege of Boston. The second event is going to be the opening of the Second Continental Congress. Mind you, with just under a year before Independence Day, the American colonists are still declaring loyalty to George III. All right, and we'll talk more about that in just a bit. But nonetheless, they are going to, by July 8th, 1775, they are going to sign what's known as the Olive Branch Petition. And this was supposed to be basically a plea to the king to protect the colonies from further aggression from its army. George III refuses to even read it. Rather, what he does is he issues his declaration of rebellion. And basically what that, and the colonists don't know that this is going to come about until later, but what the Declaration of Rebellion does is basically declares war on the colonies. They declare that, that the colonists are being deluded by a small cabal of people, and those colonists that remain defiant against royal authority will be treated harshly. In fact, they will be hung up. Whereas those that say, you know what, we made a mistake, they will be treated with mercy. So basically, what the king has done is he's made the world's superpower even larger. Because with the Declaration of Rebellion, George III can increase the size of his army, increase the size of his navy, call upon his German allies. Remember, George III is the third Hanoverian king of England, and the Hanoverians are Germans, and so they're going to rely on German mercenaries known as Hessians in order to put down the rebellion. But in anticipation of any sort of further aggression and further conflict, the colonists are going to continue to mobilize and organize. The most important measure, of course, is going to be the appointment of a commander-in-chief of the Continental Army. The Continental Congress is going to adopt the Massachusetts militia, and it's going to appoint its new commander, namely George Washington. Now, why pick Washington? Washington, first of all, is the only man in the Continental Congress that's wearing a uniform. By this time, he's a colonel in the Virginia militia, and his reputation as a fighting man is well known. In fact, he might be sometimes too willing to fight, so he has military experience. But that's not the only reason why he's selected as commander-in-chief of the Continental Army. One of the most important aspects of Washington is where he's from. Washington is a Virginian. And as a Virginian, he can bring about the most powerful of the colonies to the rebel cause. Remember, this is a time period when Bostonians don't care what Philadelphians are doing, and people in Charleston don't care what's going on in New York. They distrust one another. So if you appoint a Southerner, a Virginian, as commander-in-chief of the Continental Army, what you're basically doing is you're trying to unite the colonies under one banner. And what better way to do it than by bringing a Southerner? Of course, Washington considered Virginia a middle colony, but nonetheless bring a Southerner in command of the military effort of the Revolution. We will see that the intellectual movement of the Revolution will be also led by a Virginian, but nonetheless, the military side, the military effort, is going to be led by George Washington. Chiefly because, number one, he's experienced as a soldier, and number two, his birth colony, and eventual state, Virginia, is going to help bring about a greater sense of unity within the colonies.